Nice.
I'm here.
Okay. Huh. Different, but
Yes, Ken will attend. They both are, I think.
Tires. And you said Ryan's going to try to come. If we don't have a quorum, I think we have to just cancel the meeting and sign off and be done. Is that right, Helen? Do you know what the protocol is? You can't even chit chat.
Yeah, I believe, who are you still waiting for? Because you could text them or, call a couple people and see if they're joining. And if they can't, then yeah, you'd have to cancel the meeting. It's fine if you chit chat, you just can't talk, address things on the agenda.
Daniel, you said Ken's going to be late, Colin's going to be late. Dan Firestone.
Paul is definitely not joining. I haven't heard from Dan. And
let me see if I can text Dan.
I know Dan had a cell phone.
Yeah, all I have is a landline. But good call him. I'll turn my sound off and I'll call him. We can't count either of you.
Sandy, Ken and Colin will not join us until about 8 o'clock. So if they're needed for a quorum, we won't have a quorum for a while.
Then we should cancel the meeting if you don't think you're gonna have a quorum. Sorry.
Okay, who else is a possible? Ryan, Daniel, do you have Ryan's cell number? Could you text him?
Yeah, I think he emailed us today that he was going to be a little late. Let me look.
Okay, so I think we should cancel at this point because we don't have a quorum. We can't do anything. I don't know that the survey, we wanted to talk about that. That's not, we wanted to get that finalized. But
Sorry, you really need to cancel. You can't discuss it without the
no,
quorum.
I'm just talking about what business we have is there anything that we really can't delay till the next month? And I don't think that there is. So I think rather than saying we should wait when there are 3 people who time is very uncertain when they could join us. Unless somebody got an email from someone who said they were coming. What do we do when we cancel it? Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
I just say, unfortunately, I think I agree with you that it is a meeting that starts at 7. We don't have a quorum, so we have to make that call.
Okay, so when we go off this call, if somebody else decides to call in or to link in because they think the meeting's still on, what will they see or get? Is there a way for us to put a message out that says, well, I guess I could just reply to everybody?
We should just send an email that said the meeting was ended because the quorum wasn't held. They'll get a deadline, or they won't be able to access the meeting. It's definitely unfortunate, but it is what it is at 7:14.
Yeah.
And I hate using that phrase. I'm sorry. It is what it is, but current situation is we don't
We
have a
use that a
quorum.
lot these days, you know?
We all get a free
Is it
evening.
Wednesdays or-
And
Yeah.
if anybody wants the Clean Energy Commission's report, they can contact Kevin. Right, Kevin?
Bye.
Bye.
Kevin, what's Kevin's last name, Sandy, just so I remember?
It's Feely, Feely.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks for joining, everyone. I think, Sandy, is this the final sign off? She left the building, so.
Daniel, you look like you have the perfect.
And Sandy,
Oh, not for me.
we're looking for our quorum. We were just about to end the meeting when you called. Are you trying to get in on the computer or on the phone?
On the computer.
Okay, able to just, I had a little trouble. Oh, whoops, I thought I muted myself, sorry. Shortly. I hope Helen Rubino Turco doesn't regret leaving our little company.
She didn't seem to regret leaving.
She thought we were following her. I didn't know Daniel said he'd had a bike crash, and is dealing with the after effects of a concussion.
I think out of cognitive control for a few days, I think.
No traffic out there. Everybody was home. But when people started getting on the roads again, I feel like people are driving.
Serious accidents was way up,
Yep.
and that the number of deaths
more traffic, that's sort of a regular, you know, you go out, you know what your trip is going to be like. You just get in line. You
Crazy. I went over. To the other by going 20 miles over the speed limit. Just
knocked out a bunch of keys.
hate to hear that.
Doing okay though.
Suspecting that Dan is having a problem. He asked me to send, in the message of that appointment, it didn't work. I had to. Oh, there's Dan Firestone. Hello, Daniel. Dan Firestone.
Sounds like he's in a car.
I don't know. Okay, so I think what we should do is everybody should mute themselves except for Daniel at this point, and we'll have Daniel call the roll. Can you do that, Daniel? Do you have the list of the members, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah. If you could do that, Sandy. Sandy, could you run the roll call? Sorry, got some background noise in my house.
Can everybody mute themselves? Okay, that's better. All right, I'll call the roll because I can see who's here. So we have present members of the commission: Sandra Fry, Daniel Johnson, Jill Morowski, Daniel Firestone, and Denise Gutierrez. We're expecting a couple other members a little later. First item on the agenda is approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes?
Daniel Johnson has no comments.
Daniel, do you want to make a motion that we adopt them?
Yes, Daniel Johnson makes a motion to approve the, what is that, August minutes?
September.
September, sorry, yeah. 10 more minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, Denise seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. So I'll call your name and you'll need to unmute yourself and give me your vote. Daniel Johnson,
Sorry, yes, Daniel. My son's having a dance party downstairs, so I'm sorry. This is Daniel
Okay.
Johnson. I approve those.
okay, Jill Morowski,
Approve.
okay, Daniel Firestone,
I didn't, I just got I had to call in to get the voice, so I didn't hear what was going on.
oh, we are approving the meeting minutes from last month.
I wasn't there last month, so I'm going to pass.
Okay,
Abstain.
we'll take that as an abstain. Denise?
I approve.
All right, so that carries, the minutes are approved. Next item is under old business, updates on roadway and trail projects. And I talked to Dwayne Martin so I can give everybody an update. The North Main Street Bridge is moving along as they had hoped. They will be switching to stage 3 later this month. So it'll switch to the other side of the bridge. The road diet study is underway. They meet with the contractor, VHB, every other week. They did some needed traffic counts and then adjusted them based on pre-COVID data. They will likely begin outreach in the spring, closer to when the trial will actually start. They're going to be evaluating crashes and developing a concept plan. The town has established a website for the project, and I think that's, did I send that out? I think it's right after the minutes, maybe. I thought I sent, yes, right after the minutes in the packet, the meeting packet, there's the link to that. The Fern Street Bridge replacement, they have the permitting underway, and when they get the permitting done will determine when they can actually get that project started. Repaving work is all done for the season. They're probably working on the striping now. You've probably seen that. They'll be starting on their annual Complete Streets report soon. The updated bike map, the planning department is working on that. The New Park Avenue project, they have survey work underway right now, and they've started some outreach. They met with the Design District and the Elmwood Business Association. They expect to finish the design late in 21. Trout Brook Trail, there's still not a DEEP update. They thought they were really close, that they had an agreement that both DEEP and the town were happy with, but I think the town signed it, but DEEP hasn't signed for their part yet. But the design is underway for the Park to Jackson section, so that's positive. Semi-diverters at 4 Mile and Newport. They have sent letters to the residents on both those streets to let them know what they're planning to do. They're going to put back the 2 semi-diverters at 4 Mile and Boulevard. But then on Newport, they're going to put a diverter at Sedgwick and another one at Ellsworth. And those will both prevent cars from entering Newport at those locations. So if you're coming down Sedgwick, you can't turn on to Newport. And if you're coming down Ellsworth, you can't turn on to Newport. So, and those will be put up in a temporary way again, so they can check and see how they work. I think they figured just the one diverter on 4 Mile wasn't working sufficiently to do what they needed. So I thought that was positive. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Anything you wanted to discuss?
Just the fact that, I don't know, I feel like semi-diverters get confusing after a while if there's too many, but that's just from driving through Pennsylvania with a lot of construction lately. like at some point I can only comprehend so many road cones, but. Okay, I think you're,
The intention
Right.
is that after they've tested it, they will install it permanently. But they're still testing. And actually, the way they're installing those barrels, they can be out there through the winter because they bolt them down. So the idea is not to always have something that looks like a construction zone. The construction zone looking stuff is just to test the concept. Jill, did you want to add something?
No, but my understanding is that the barriers were put up at Newport because when they were just going to do 4 Mile, but that diverted all the traffic to Newport. So we'll see where the traffic goes now.
Yeah, and I think the idea is that people who were they were diverting down to Newport and turning off of Sedgwick onto Newport because they knew they couldn't get through on 4 Mile. So this is just providing another little different barrier. They'll see what happens. So I think it's good to test stuff. Daniel, Dan Firestone, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm still trying to get
Okay.
my voice. I can see you. I don't know if you can see me.
Yep, we can see you now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm just having an issue with video.
Okay. So
But I've been out of the loop for the last month, so.
Okay, moving on. In your packet, I think there are a couple other things that I discussed with Dwayne. The first is the proposed improvement at Hunter Mountain and Fern. Did you see that where they're adding a missing sidewalk on the south side of Fern and adding a crosswalk across Mountain at that location? So I think I hope you had a chance to look at that. Okay.
I didn't, but it's a very good idea, Sandy. It's a pretty pedestrian unfriendly corner.
Yeah.
So it's helpful.
Yeah, so be sure to take a look at the materials in the packet. See if you have any, if anybody has any concerns about that, let me know. The next item that was in the packet, which I think is really exciting, the town has been trying to figure out what are we going to do when the outdoor dining goes away for the winter. They're going to take down the barriers, et cetera. What they're going to do on LaSalle is they're going to keep the back-in angle parking. They're going to add bike lanes, and those bike lanes will remain after when the outdoor dining comes back again. We will still have bike lanes. That won't go away. And so it's we have a contraflow bike lane because LaSalle will still be northbound, and there's a bike lane that's flowing southbound. And that's in the packet also. They're not sure if they're taking it all the way down to Ellsworth. It's definitely going as far as Arapahoe. So I'll give a couple minutes if anybody wanted to jump in with any comments on that. I'll mute myself.
I think it's exciting.
I agree.
And unfortunately, the bad news on that topic is Farmington is going to go back the way it was. They're considering possibly a 3-lane cross section rather than 4 lanes. So you'd have the center lane would be a turn lane. You know how sometimes there's a 2-way turn lane, or at the intersections, it's a left turn lane. But they didn't have the plans finished on that yet.
The gossip I heard is that they're going to return in the spring, though, to the same setup.
Yes, I think that is the case. I think that is the case. There's some traffic signal improvements that are underway. Prospect at Kane and Prospect at the McDonald's down near Kane Street. The equipment has been ordered. They weren't sure if they would get it in before the winter. They'll have, it'll be accessible pedestrian signals where the pedestrian signal makes a noise. And this is a location where they heard from an individual who was blind and had difficulty using that signal. And it will have an exclusive pedestrian signal. They're going to have to do some new crosswalks and ramps. They're going to do as much as they can on that before winter. And I think that is everything that I had from Dwayne. I was hoping that Alan Blazenstein and Ed Pollack might be on the phone for the next item on the agenda, which is about the Mountain Road Farmington Avenue intersection. And all that information is in your packet, the memo that came from the town, and then Alan's response. Alan was concerned that the town was saying, okay, so there were some near misses, but nothing happened. People, both the pedestrians and the motorists, saw the problem and avoided an issue. And he felt that that wasn't really adequate. So I think the question for the commission is whether the commission wants to, I think rather than having a letter or something, do we want to try to set up a meeting with the town to talk about this issue? Do we want to pursue it further? Are commission members familiar with that back and forth on that?
I'd say this is Daniel. Yeah, I read the email. I think I don't know if it's possible. Is the commission possible to just sit down with Alan as a group or as a quorum and just kind of hear? Because I see the back and forth between the town and Alan, at least intersection specific, but maybe applicable to other streets.
Yeah, I think, yeah, sorry.
I think he makes a really strong point.
Well, I think the question kind of is, does the commission feel that what Alan brought up in response to the memo warrants further discussion with the town? And we could set something up to talk to the town further about that. Joe, you're muted.
So he talks about, can you hear me or no? I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he brings up like road widening, prohibiting right-of-ways, right on reds, and a town stance on things are fine. And I think those overlap into a lot of other decisions made by the town. So I just want to, maybe as the commission, we can learn to hear Alan's side in a more item by item. He gave bullet points, but I think they're pretty, they cover a lot of ground. And it's more than just one intersection that he covers, basically.
Also, in the first note that the town wrote, they were I'll use the word lightly, they were nonchalant about their data reporting. And I think that was one of the things that was needing clarification. And I think inviting someone, making sure Alan's at a meeting, inviting someone from the town. I mean, they didn't give any numbers, and they referred to things in very vague terms. And I think that that was something Alan was not happy with.
Okay, why don't I try to set up a meeting with the town and invite Alan? Who from the commission would want to attend that meeting?
If it doesn't conflict with work, I'm happy to attend too. I think the more of us that can get there would be best.
This is Daniel Johnson. I can join.
Yeah, same. This is Denise. I would like to join as well.
Yeah, Dan Firestone, I can do it also.
I could also, this is Kevin Feely, I could show up if you just would like a body or two.
Great.
Okay. I've got all those names down. What I'll do is I'll work with the town to come up with something, a time that they suggest, and we'll see, try to see who it works for and go from there. Okay? All right, we're going to skip item C, which is the survey, because Colin's not here yet, but Ken is here. Thank you, Ken. The record should note that Ken arrived at 7:41, about 7:40. We'll make it round.
Sandy, we shouldn't wait forever for Colin. I mean, he's hoping to get here by 8, but I think we should put this item on the agenda at 8, whether he's here or not. Ken and I have talking notes. We met earlier today with Colin, so.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Let's just skip to item D, discussion of next steps in update of bicycle plan. When we talked last month, we talked about, how are we going to update the bicycle plan? Are we going to do it all ourselves? Does the town have an interest? So I talked with Todd Dumais, who's the town planner, and he recently put together a list of action items for implementing the plan of conservation and development. And one of those was updating the bicycle plan. So the town is interested in us assisting them in updating it. I told them, we're a volunteer commission. We can't do all the work, but I told him we were planning to do the survey. He's very interested in the survey. He asked if before we finalize it, if we could share it with him so he could let us know if there are any additional things he thinks would be helpful from the town's point of view. And he also said that the town could broadcast the survey, which I think that's what we've had done before. And he is working on updating the bicycle facilities map. He had to recreate the whole thing, unfortunately. That's why that's been taking a while. The other thing he'd like our assistance on is when they do zoning updates, they'd like to update the zoning to cover requiring bike parking with different kinds of developments. So they'd look for assistance if we're able to do some research on that. And it will help them too, if something comes to them from the Bike Ped Commission, that's helpful in terms of showing, this isn't just a planning commission imposed thing or a town council imposed thing, but it's something that's coming from the community. So I think, are talking about doing a bicycle survey sort of as a prelude to updating the bike plan is going to be well received. I did mention that we had talked a little bit about the need for it to be a pedestrian plan, not strictly a bicycle plan, which is a way big task to take on. So I'm not I wonder what commission members are thinking about that in terms of what if you think we should have a bike ped plan, what do you think what kind of aspects of pedestrian would you like to see in there or think we could include?
Sandy, we had this is Jill. The committee that was putting together the survey did have a request. I think it was Daniel, that we integrate pedestrian matters into the survey, and we'll bring that up when it comes up. But as I started thinking about it, I realized there's a lot of things we don't know about pedestrian use and safety and sense of comfort. And it seems to me that almost warrants its own kind of investigation, if not a survey, some subcommittee bringing things together like some of Alan's concerns, things that are happening on New Britain, New Park. And it seems to me that to try to refine those together at once would be not just a huge task, but it would get very complicated. And that they would be better separated out. I mean, in the end, they could be integrated, but in fact, designing the plan for pedestrians is a big undertaking.
Yeah. Does anybody else have thoughts on that? I would say I lean in the same direction as Jill is saying, that it would be quite an undertaking.
This is Daniel. I agree it's a big undertaking. I think we should figure out how to tackle that as a responsibility of the commission and to the town. So whether it's separating the groups or figuring out a different strategy for pedestrians, but I always think about that, crossing crosswalks. There's that runner who on Asylum was hit by a car and unfortunately passed away because it was a signaled crosswalk and he wasn't going at the time the signal was clear for him. So I think, it's a different time, different group of people using the streets in different ways. So we should include it, and we should include that as part of our goal. And again, sorry for the background noise. It's not a dance party.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else, Dan, Ken, Denise, any thoughts on this?
Well, maybe we should take a look at the sidewalks around town, the condition of the sidewalks that are existing, and possibility of adding sidewalks where there aren't any. Years ago, in the north end of town, a couple women were walking on their morning walk. I don't know if anybody remembers it. And there was a dump truck garbage truck that backed into them and killed them. Because there's no sidewalks, so you walk on the street.
And with COVID, a lot more people are walking, and it's becoming clearer where there needs to be more pedestrian safety and maybe even sidewalks, although the town would hate to hear this, but people are walking right down the middle of the street. But I think it's important. It's our mandate. I just think maybe we could dedicate a good part of a meeting just to free, open thinking about what information we need, what data we need to collect, what issues. I know crosswalks, Daniel's brought them up. Ed Pollock's brought up issues of crosswalks, and maybe we can gather a bunch of this information.
Ken, did you want to add something? You looked like you did.
Yeah, I mean, I think having the conversation with Todd and such, and not that we need to get our direction exactly from the town of what they want, but I think we have to balance the aspirational goals of a plan versus items and issues that can be implementable, and it's finding that right balance, because we can do a completely aspirational plan that may have no value to the town, or maybe we highlight, for all of this pedestrian, it's develop a overall sidewalk inventory, and I'm not sure if the town has that and can map out hot spots and sidewalk, crossings is the biggest thing I see. Right, this town adding sidewalks is going to be very tough to do, but it's maintenance of existing sidewalks, it's maintenance of shrubs and obstructions on those sidewalks, and crosswalks. I see from a pedestrian standpoint. It's beyond that, it's going to get very tough unless there are some critical missing links we identify. It's a rabbit hole of going down with sidewalk sort of inventory and where we should have sidewalks everywhere. So I know you've gone through that before, Sandy.
Yeah, my concern is a little bit that we are a volunteer group. It kills me getting these agendas and meeting materials done on a monthly basis. So I don't want to see us bite off more than we could chew, but we maybe could really encourage the town to say, maybe you need to put some investment into this, because a lot of the data they have their repair program, so they know which sidewalks they want to repair. I think they've had some sidewalks that they've tried to install only to be beat back by the property owners. So I kind of feel like we've been talking about the bike plan because we want to have something that really pushes a little harder than what's out there already. that is a little more innovative in terms of types of facilities. And I think that will be a big effort. Maybe what we need to do is set up a meeting with Todd to talk about what our thoughts are, how it fits with what they're doing. And I'm kind of thinking, Daniel, I'd really like you to be in that meeting also, because you've got strong thoughts about this. And looking around at our group, I think you're the one with the youngest children, and like really looking to the future of walking around the community. Is there anybody else who'd like to be in a meeting like that? A discussion with Todd?
Yeah, I would like to be a part of that, Sandy.
Sorry. Okay, so I have down Denise and Daniel, myself. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. You know, I realized, I think I skipped over something. Let me see. I put so many darn materials in this document. I think I skipped over the letter from the town about bike parking. Did anybody look at that? Maybe I didn't get it in. Shoot. I think I may have missed it. Okay, well then we'll have to skip over that, because the town looked at all the locations that we had recommended, and they said that for some of them they'd like to see assistance from our group to reach out to property owners. There were different issues with some of the different locations. So I will send their letter to everybody.
It's in your package.
Yes? Where is it?
It's right after the road diet link.
Yeah, it's page 6 out of 17.
Page 6 of 17, yeah.
And then, can you hear me? I'm sorry. Look,
Yeah.
So, this is kind of like, this reminds me a little bit of what we go through on like on development side, right? Like whether or not the commission's role is to find the solution or state what the problems are and ask the engineers to find solutions, right? So when you talk about us trying to reach out to property owners, and even the prior topic, pedestrians, I mean, I don't know if it's worth discussion when we talk about the bicycle facilities plan, but as the commission, we can state what the problems are and what needs to be done, but I don't know if we're the right group to find the solution because we're not engineers for this, right?
Agreed.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
I'm not a developer, right? But we work with developers.
Well,
We need a customer to be able to upload documents. I can't tell you to do that, but that's the problem. And now we have to work with a group to get that done.
Okay, what he ends the letter with is saying, moving forward, we ask that the PBC prioritize this list of locations in the likely event that funds are not available to complete all in a given year. We would also request that consult with adjacent businesses. One reason that the consulting with adjacent businesses may make some sense is, like, let's talk about J. Renee Roasters, for example. I don't even know if it's on the list, but it's possible that locating a bike hitch there isn't really easy, but maybe you bike there regularly and you could go in and talk to them and say, hey, the town is willing to put in a bike parking rack, but here's what the problems are. I think that's kind of what they were thinking. But I can follow up with them and ask Jill. I don't know if you and Alan want to look at the list and determine if anything that we sent that you would prioritize it in any certain way.
Okay, we can do that. I mean, I can ask Alan if he would like to do that with me. But I just want to say, I agree with Daniel that, it's not really our business to do asks from businesses or suggestions. It seems if I were a small business owner and some person sauntered in off the street and said, hey, the town wants to do this, I would say, well, why doesn't the town come talk to me, right? I think that we can figure out the priorities and we can encourage an order in which they seek parking, but I think it's beyond our duties to actually go into stores and talk to store owners. I think it's I also want to say that it was not on our map, which they had when they put in the bike parking in the center, the COVID bike parking, which is not in a very convenient place and not in a place where one who might worry about the safety of their bike feels really comfortable. It's interesting they didn't consult us about that after all the work that the committee had done.
Jill, maybe you and Alan could look at the letter, see if you have any other feedback on the other points in the letter that they sent. Give me the prioritization list and I'll get back to the town on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, letter of support for community connectivity program. That's at the back of the packet, just saying we support them. What they're going to do is upgrade their traffic signal equipment to provide accessible pedestrian equipment and ADA ramps at various locations. They didn't have the locations laid out. So that'll be part of their application packet. And we had talked at our last meeting, I was authorized to write that letter. Next item under old business, I heard from the young girl, Claire O'Donnell, who had suggested the new bike route to us. And when we had talked about that about 2 or 3 months ago, that was when we first started talking about we really need a survey. We need to understand how people are using the existing routes already. And then we'd heard from an individual who said, well, he'd suggest a route that included like Mohawk and Mohegan, I think over there sort of skirting around the edge of town. And we talked about, should these kind of routes be on a website somewhere? Like, would that be something that Bike West Hartford would post on their website? Kind of the hints, like the colored routes guide people to those great cut-throughs. So once you learn those routes, you could incorporate those cut-throughs into other roads. And I think the idea was, are there other rides or are there other routes that the average person may not know about? Like, I don't know if a lot of people do this ride. You go up Steel and then you sort of circle around and I'm not even sure what that road is called, that you circle around, you're on Mohegan, then you go up Mohawk, you can get to 185 very easily. There's some routes like that I'm sure all of us have learned because we went with somebody on a ride and then you add it to your repertoire, but a lot of people don't know them. Is that something that we feel there would be value to get out there on a website? And as soon as I finish, we'll let Bike West Hartford jump in to tell us if they think that's not even viable for them to consider. But I wanted to put that on the table. Scott or Ethan, do you have any thoughts on that, the viability of putting those kind of routes onto the Bike West Hartford site?
This is Scott. We actually, on our site, we already have several routes, including the 3 neighborhood bike rides. We have a park-to-park tour. And I think we've got a couple of others as well. So, I mean, the answer is we had met as Bike West Hartford and talked about developing routes. And, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them listed here. And we'd be happy to add on to the website any additional routes that the commission comes up with. But if you surf through the site and get onto the rides section, you'll see a whole bunch of them.
Okay, great. I think I was looking in the wrong place. So if anybody has any routes to suggest, I think let's take a look at that. I may be alone in my opinion that it would be useful to have more information because maybe it's all out there already. So enough on that. I see that Colin is here and we can talk about the survey. Or wait, Scott, I interrupted you. What were you going to say, Scott?
No. I mean, as I said, we're just happy to add to the route, to our site. But I think that this are helpful to lots of people, which is why we did it. In other words, we have one ride that's Town Hall to Doncaster Road in Bloomfield, which of course is a go-to route. One is Town Hall to Corbin's Corner, Town Hall to Bishop's Corner, Town Hall to Route 4 Reservoir, Northern West Hartford to Old State House, and then the 3 bicycle routes as well, and the Park to Park tour that we did. So,
okay, great.
If anybody's got more, by all means, let us know. We'll be happy to add them to our site.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, now we will jump back to survey because Colin is here. So I'm going to mute myself. Colin, Ken, and Jill, take it away.
Ken, you're muted.
Colin, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll be Ken.
Ken was going. He just was muted.
I
sorry.
muted. Amazing. After 6 months, I still can't remember which way is mute, which way is unmute. We received comments, I guess you can say officially, or we've received comments from Sandy and Daniel. I'm not sure if and Daniel Johnson. No one else had sent in any comments. So but first we'll say, if anyone has any other comments, we kind of would like to have them very soon. So October 19th, we last call for any potential comments. We'll say October 19th because we would like to move forward with finalizing the survey, and we'll talk about where that is. But that's our first one. So if anyone else had sent comments or tried to submit any apologies, we only seem to have received ones from Sandy via the survey itself and Daniel as an email. So overall, the comments were good. I think there were some questions, and we started to touch on it here about the pedestrian focus and how do we incorporate that in, and we're trying to balance that topic with the idea of length and getting questions that the right amount of questions, and also questions that are going to serve the focus of being the plan input update. And maybe meeting with Todd also will help out with that side of things, of clarifying exactly what we want to include in the survey. So Sandy, I think you had some comments regarding the bike lanes and routes, and we'll include another question on that, on the signed bike routes and the usage of that. And we talked about pedestrian questions, as we said, and we have to decide whether we want to do a full-blown sort of other survey really targeted at pedestrians, and we sort of have one that's bicycle focused and pedestrian focused, or combine them and the balancing of that. So Sandy, I'm not sure how quickly we want to maybe talk to Todd to set up that meeting. You can to move that forward. Daniel had brought up and thought of
But just on that, it's almost binary. It's so either we have a couple short, quick questions on pedestrian, just so that there's some flavor in there, or we make a decision. This is robust. So I guess if this oncoming meeting would make that decision, if it's a robust need, then let's go ahead and have another subcommittee, and let's go after another survey. But we'd like to answer that question pretty quickly.
Other comments that Daniel had talked about, a sort of an open-ended question towards the end, or something about their general thoughts, and that's easy to include. Daniel, you had a couple comments and questions regarding concerns of bias and some things. You gave one example. We weren't sure if you had other examples you wanted to share, and maybe email, or where you thought you had some other concerns, because you talked about one where it had said about select 3, and you felt you had a concern with that. So we were unsure exactly if there were other ones you were viewing at, or how we'd like to go on there. So maybe that's something you want to clarify a bit, either now or just in an email to us afterwards. So
No. So a couple, well, one of the survey questions said select at least 3.
Yeah.
I think that'll force a response if a survey respondent only needs to select 1, because then you're going to have responses to other items that may have been forced. So I'm just trying to think of when you present this to the town, what's going to be most accurate. If somebody wants to select only 1, that should be the option. Maybe just select all that apply for that particular field. And then I still get into concerns with gender bias and age bias when that question is asked towards the end.
We'll talk about that in a moment, because we had some thoughts on that. But Daniel, the question going back, the wording says select up to 3. It didn't say select at least 3. I'm not sure if you got a different thing when you submitted it, but the wording says please select up to 3 below choices.
I could take a look. When I went through it, it was pretty quick, so I'll double check. If that's what it is, that's fine. I did get like a page validation error when I tried to leave all the answers blank and select next. It threw me back to that selection, so I'll just double check on that.
You know what I see here? It's asterisk that you have to give 1 answer, but I can even take that off so someone could skip it. That I'm seeing that's what it may have been. It's up to 3, but right now it's required, so you had to answer at least select 1. But I can even turn that off. I'm not sure why actually I had that. So
no problem. I mean, if it's solved, then it's solved. Just want to bring that up going through.
Okay. Your next couple questions, we kind of thought about pushing back a bit on and maybe taking the gender off, but the thoughts of age, and also we had some other discussions, even asking about zip code, just to see from our perspective, are we reaching a wide variety of people that are answering surveys? Zip code, neighborhoods across the town, even age is just, are we reaching one population segment that we maybe need to focus on reaching other population segments? And we did include gender, however you want to define that. There was a goal of having, creating some diversity of responses, and maybe even see if there are some differences in responses across any of those different sort of demographics is why we were including them, because it's, zip, and actually the one we didn't include, what zip code we feel even is almost the most important potentially to make sure we are canvassing across and while this is not a, quantitative, or it's a qualitative study, anecdotal, it's not going to be, statistically valid. It is nice to see we're getting a diversity of responses across a wide segment of the town. That was generally the goal.
I'm curious, Daniel, like upside downside, if that's what our perceived upside is to asking the questions, which is understanding, that if people over 60 are the only ones who love fire hydrants, that's interesting. I don't know, or love a certain section of trails or whatever else, other questions we can correlate. But what's the downside? What happens when we say this optional question about some of these demographic factors?
Well, yeah. So off the bat, I'm always a fan of more information is better, and the more you can use that is great. Like if your example, if we knew that, that's wonderful. If somebody over 60 has a specific preference over someone who's in their 20s and 30s. But as a town commission, maybe this needs to be presented to the town first, because we are proposing this to the public, and there's restrictions on how you can identify a person. And we're a commission on pedestrian and bicycle safety. I don't disagree that certain information related to whether a person is a household with a family and kids versus, single, or age and gender. I don't disagree that that's interesting to know, but I don't know if that affects our role and how we should make decisions. And I think there may be a more tactful way to ask those questions than what's kind of in the survey.
Do you have, so for a couple, it's awesome. This is the best kind of conversation in the world because there's both sides and we're trying to find something that works. If you,
This is no debate.
you just opened a little door at the end there and said, there's maybe a better way to ask them. If you're open to the better way to ask them and you know what those are, please share. While at the same time, if you're really hold this one heavily and say we shouldn't do it, we also really respect that.
Well, I think at a base, we should look to the town to see if we can ask these questions, right? You know, dealing a lot with the Small Business Administration, they want to collect demographic data, but they're limited. And as a bank, we're limited to how we can ask that question too. No matter how beneficial it'll be to our end result, if we knew X, Y, and Z person with X, Y, and Z lifestyle chooses this product, right? But we have to check of what we're allowed to do and the balance and responsibility, right? So I think for some questions we should ask the town. For others, I don't disagree that family is important, but you know, so say you have the question in there, you know, do you bike with your family? I think that's discriminating against people who don't have a family or may not identify into that situation in life, right? So we may need to say, like, you know, when you go out on a walk, you know, do you walk alone, or, you know, how many people do you include when you go walking, or what is the average group size that you tend to go shopping with if it's on bicycle or pedestrian, right? So I think we got to be careful that not everybody has a family or that they don't feel they're in the same situation if they respond to a survey that we're asking for the town.
Okay. I also take away this idea that is our charge, you know, diversity and inclusion. There's other people that are charged with that within the town, equity, I hope.
Yeah, so then we shouldn't ask the question then in that circumstance, right?
Well, but that's why I'm hearing that from you, and I'm at least or not even at least, I'm acknowledging that. If there's a landmine here, but we can still achieve our goals of having a much better pedestrian and bicycle plan, just be forthright with us, Daniel. I mean, A, what's the right way to say it? Or B, do we have to remove it? I don't feel like it's so gray.
I don't want to make that. I don't want to make a decision for you guys, right? Because I don't disagree. You know, that's my feedback. I don't have the answer. These are like questions that come to my mind looking at the survey that as a group we should think about when we send this out to the town. You know, I don't have an answer, and you know, I don't have I don't have the solution, right? It's just I think of, like, you know, if I'm a resident and I get a survey and I get to certain questions and maybe I'm looking at it from my point of view, but what if I look at it from someone else's point of view? And we also want that person's point of view for the survey for pedestrian bicycle safety, right? So I'm posing the questions because I do think they're important and they may jump in or out of our scope of what we should be asking.
You know, I just want to add that we will run the survey by the town. That Todd DeMay said that he would look at the survey. He's interested in possibly adding some questions, making sure we're covering things that he thinks would be useful for updating a plan. So I think we can make sure with him that there aren't any problems with any of those kinds of questions. But I would agree with what Ken has said, that the validity, it's not going to be a valid survey because it's just whoever fills it out. But the more that we can show we have a diverse group who filled it out, that's good in terms of showing that we're representing people in the town. And so I think that's important.
Daniel, I'm very receptive to your concern about all the demographics, but I think I grew less concerned talking with Ken and Colin about the gender and age and zip code questions as being actually just what Sandy said, like data we are not going to use manipulatively, but data that we can use to argue that we either have a very diverse sample here, or that we find that there's an age group or a gender that are disproportionately represented, which could raise different kinds of questions, like maybe the survey needs to be recirculated, or maybe women are cycling more than men now, who knows? But the family question, is there a particular one? Because there's one about families and children going to school, which of course you can't have that's a school transport question, but was there another one?
No, I think those are all, I mean, we pretty much discussed all the ones that came up to me as something we should look at and make sure that we're, within our bounds for asking those questions.
Okay, I'll go over the family ones because I agree with you 100% that we should not presume, we are a family-centered culture, but we shouldn't presume that everyone's family-centered or in a family like we think of families, right?
Right.
So I'll take it upon myself to look through the survey for that.
And clearly, Daniel, these are just the kind of things we want brought up. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all good. Everyone's working, and we're all trying to get the best results. I just want to make sure when we have something, I know it's not a statistical, unbiased survey, but the better we have this together and the more responses we can get, because people feel like they're able to express their true needs for pedestrian and bicycle safety, I think that the more we'll be able to use that and an argument with anything that's not up to those standards from the town,
Right. Absolutely. We're consciously not even asking for people to. The last one we did add, and we could decide, would you like to be added to the mailing list and include your email address? We didn't include it on this one. Last time around, we were all operating under a more fuzzy combination of Bike West Hartford / the commission, and we used those names actually got dropped into sort of the Bike West Hartford, and we did distribute them right or wrong back then, but I think this time we probably should not, where us as a commission aren't collecting email addresses, and I'm not sure if that maybe is something else if you want to direct them somewhere, or maybe we just don't, and this is just a commission to get perspective. So that being said, we do have some decisions we kind of know we need to be making. And the first one, I think having that meeting with Todd Dumais will give some guidance on exactly the questions and how is it going to inform a bicycle and pedestrian plan, and are we asking the right questions to be helpful in that manner? We said about the October 19th for anyone else to provide some comments back. That would be much appreciated. And then, we're hoping as a subcommittee to finalize this survey and begin to identify how we're going to distribute it. Sandy already mentioned the town will be willing to help out with that, which is great. I know last time around they distributed in a variety of different manners, and we also reached out to some of the newspapers. I think local newspapers did pick it up and even had a profile of a story. So Sandy, I'm not sure if the town, as part of their promoting it, would also have some sort of press release or some sort of way we can have the committee. And I know last time around Scott Franklin, I think had a quote or two and talked about the importance of the survey. So since you're still chair, Sandy, maybe you're going to still be that person if we get this out before the end of the year.
And you know what, Ken, I'm thinking those are things we can talk with Todd about when we meet with him.
I think that was it for the decisions. Colin, did I?
No, it's great. Thank you for everything.
So that's where we are.
All right. Great work. That's really very effective subcommittee. Thank you. Okay. That is the end of old business. Oh, whoops. Yes?
One question. This is Kevin Feely. Where can I find the survey?
Can we resend the link?
Yeah, at this point, we've just distributed it to the commission members because it was going to be a commission
Okay,
survey.
that's fine then.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to new business. I had some questions asked about parking in bike lanes and was any enforcement being done? No town staff here, so it's kind of hard to ask that question. Does anybody remember who brought that up? I don't remember where that came from.
I wonder if David Pierce did. The young gentleman was on the call.
That's right. David Beers is on the call. David, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that particular locations?
Yeah, sure. Hi, David Beers here. Honestly, since I brought it up last meeting, I really have seen a lot fewer cars parking in the bike lanes, which is great news. But there's still occasionally some people on Boulevard and on Fern that either are parking with their hazards on or just park there seeming to I don't know, not notice or not care or something. And then there's also the issue of delivery vehicles like Postal Service and UPS and FedEx and Amazon trucks. And, I realize that they can only make a certain number of stops. But it's dangerous, parking in the bike lanes, even if it's for a couple minutes or whatever. I just don't see a ton of reason why they can't park on a side street and not, because it's really dangerous when you have to go around a vehicle like that, and you might not see them getting back into their vehicle, and then the cars don't expect you to be in the middle of the road because there's a dedicated bike lane. So I just don't know if that can be remedied by more, parking bike lane signs or just a sweep by the police department of some tickets. I mean, honestly, I don't really know what their stance is, but it seems like they don't really care much about doing paperwork like that, like tickets. I know that the overnight parking ban has been extended until the end of the year, but I feel I think I don't know what the fine is, but I don't think it's just a parking overnight fee that's like $25. I think it's more in the range of $70 because it counts the same way as parking in a bus stop or parking in a no parking zone. I mean, it really is. So.
Well, maybe what we can try to find out is who actually would enforce this, because the parking in the center is done by parking people, right? We've got who does that? They're town employees, but they're employed by the parking.
But that would be a great thing to have someone come to one of our meetings and talk about, enforcement of violations with pedestrian or bicycle throughways. Maybe we could learn more about the laws. And then of course that would give them some awareness that we're thinking about it as a commission.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a police department issue because I reached out to the parking department from the town soon after the bike lanes were installed on Fern and Boulevard, and they sort of said we can't really do anything because we only control the parking in the center. So this is a police department issue.
Sandy, do you think, I think if we invite someone like Todd is not going to know this, do you think we could invite some representative from the police department to just attend, the first 10, 15 minutes of a meeting?
We can try to do that.
And I would just like to add to David's is one of the most egregious violators are the lawn services who aren't just there for a few minutes, but they're there for an hour. And they're also big vehicles and force bikes, when they actually could pull into driveways most of the time and don't. Because it's,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the problem with that is that a lot of driveways on, I mean, I'm not really sure about the other bike lanes around town. I'm sort of on the eastern edge, so I really just use the ones on Boulevard and Fern. But yeah, I would agree that that's an issue too, the landscaping companies. But honestly, you know, I feel for them too. You know, what are they supposed to do? Like they're either not driveways that exist on Boulevard and Fern, or they're too small to fit, you know, the residents' cars and like a big truck and trailer. So, and they might be, you know, too far away from a side street to park their equipment and then like drive it over or whatever. So I don't really know what the remedy is for that, but I agree that that's more dangerous than a delivery vehicle because, you know, the trailer is usually much wider than the pickup truck or dump truck or whatever that's pulling it. And I mean, it takes up at least half of the travel lane for cars as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll try to see if we can get somebody to our next meeting to talk about enforcement of the parking. Thank you, David. Next item under new business. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Next item is Plan of Conservation and Development Implementation Strategies, but we actually already talked about them when I talked about reports from the town. So now under reports, town staff updates, we have no one from town. Update from Bike West Hartford, anything?
Zeke, and nothing from me.
Okay. Scott, anything? All right. Dan, anything about cycling without age?
Well, as you can imagine, it's been a very, very slow year. We last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, we had the Rotary in Motion ride out in Manchester, which was a ride that started in Manchester, went into East Hartford, and then ultimately into Bolton and back into Manchester. And Kevin showed up with the rickshaw and the trailer. The trailer's back at my house now, and I understand the rickshaw's back at Hughes. But we haven't given any rides at all. It's been, because of this COVID thing, it's been a terrible year.
Yeah.
Oh, and once again, you know, Kevin's been making repairs to this the rickshaw and paying for them out of his pocket, and I think that's it's really not his responsibility. He told me his father passed away, so he got some money from his father's estate, so he doesn't mind paying. But.
Well, do you have, I get confused because I thought at one point that Bike West Hartford was kind of supporting Cycling Without Age, but are they two separate entities? Totally?
Well, Cycling Without Age is international.
But do we have a local, I mean, I guess the question is, do we have a local nonprofit that has served to raise money for Cycling Without Age?
No. The rickshaw is owned by Bike West Hartford. And I mentioned this to Kevin. I think I might have mentioned it to you once before. No one's acted on it. There's the polo grounds in Avon. They'd like us to sponsor a polo match. And by sponsoring, it won't cost us anything, but we will get a percentage of what they collect at the gate to get in. I think it's $20 a car to get in. So I was asked about it again maybe a month ago, And, but we haven't done anything. I told Kevin and he hasn't done anything.
Well, what I'm wondering is if the rickshaw is owned by Bike West Hartford, should it be Bike West Hartford presenting the rickshaw would be the co-sponsor and money would flow to them, like Ethan or Scott? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Sandy, you know, for a bunch of years, we provided, through Bike West Hartford, the insurance for cycling without age. And I believe even initially, we helped with some of the repairs. Kevin was able to get insurance a lot cheaper than what we had. And I don't know how he's paid for that. He has not asked us for money. Not that we have a lot of money, but we have some money in our checkbook. And, you know, we'd certainly be happy to help to the extent that we can. But I think you're right. If there's an event to be sponsored, it probably should be done through the Bike West Hartford group rather than the pedestrian and bicycle.
Another thing I'd like to mention, of course, Kevin lives in Wethersfield. He is active in the bike committee in Wethersfield. And while he used to come to meetings, he doesn't come to our meetings any longer. I was surprised when I saw the rickshaw last week because it doesn't say rickshaw owned by West Hartford any longer. It says cycling without age all over it. So we don't even get any recognition at all at this point.
Did it used to say that the rickshaw was West Hartford?
Yeah, it used to say rickshaw owned by Bike West Hartford.
I think it needs to say that again, and I think we need to. Kevin is an extremely generous person, and it's not sustainable for one person to be paying stuff. You know, we need to have a system to deal with that, I think. Actually, this isn't a Ped Bike Commission issue. I should let Bike West Hartford and Cycling Without Age talk about this. I should mute myself. I'll toss it out, though, as a thought.
You're right. Yeah, I think Cycling Without Age, the rickshaw has been sort of out of sight, out of mind this whole year, and you know, we caught glimpses of Kevin, and he's done, you know, he apparently generously done repairs and so forth, but he really hasn't communicated with us about it. And I think for speaking for Bike West Hartford, it's been sort of pretty much out of sight, out of mind. So it's really our responsibility, and we, you know, haven't done much about that.
Maybe you guys can set up a meeting with Kevin to sort of resolve stuff. We'd
be happy to do that. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Thanks. And I saw Jill said she has to sign off, so goodbye, Jill. Thank you.
Have another meeting, another Zoom fun. Take care.
Oh my gosh.
Bye-bye.
Have fun. Okay, I think we're at the end of our agenda. And I thank everybody. We got off to sort of a slow start. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for everybody getting here. And I still haven't heard from anybody who's dying to be chair next year, so you can still contact me. Or you can just take over in December. Okay, anything else anybody has? Oh, wait, I forgot. Kevin Feely.
Hello.
Kevin. Yeah.
This is about the Clean Energy Commission, who has finished a updated clean energy plan for West Hartford. I thought it was all done. It turned out there were some final revisions at a meeting, I think it was a week ago. So if anybody would like a copy of that, you'd send me an email link to you. I will send it back just as soon as it's finished the final proofreading and copy. Also, they're looking to, if you, after you read it or look at it, if you would send, a letter to city council or the city clerk or city council in support of it, if you're interested, that would be great.
Okay, Kevin, do you want to give everybody your email address?
Okay, it is C.K. Feely, Feely, at sbcglobal.net.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. See you in another month.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Real quick, Sandy, the next meeting is November 9th.
Yeah, we're not changed by holiday or anything. It's the regular second Monday of the month.
Hey.
Oh, there he is.